Sometimes you stumble across a chemical compound, something that sounds really, well, ordinary. Dimethyl sulfoxide, DMSO. Doesn't exactly grab you, does it?
Not immediately, no, you wouldn't think much of it.
But then you start digging, and suddenly there's this whole hidden world, applications everywhere, and a market that's actually pretty significant.
Absolutely. It's one of those things most people probably haven't heard of, but yeah, the global market is surprisingly substantial. We're diving into a recent report today that, well, it projects the DMSO market reaching about USD 265, almost 266 million in 2025.
Right, 265.84 million to be exact.
Exactly. And then it's expected to grow pretty significantly, up to around USD 477.66 million by 2033. That's a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 7.60%.
And that's the interesting part, isn't it? It's not just numbers. It's about why. Why is this stuff in demand? So our mission for you today is to really unpack this.
Get into the weeds a bit.
Yeah. Where is DMSO used? What's fueling the growth? How do different regions compare? And, who are the big companies involved? Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. What is DMSO, fundamentally? Why should we care?
Okay, so basically, DMSO is an organosulfur compound. Fancy name, but it just means it's got carbon and sulfur atoms. And that structure gives it some really useful properties, especially as a solvent.
A solvent meaning it dissolves things.
Exactly, and it's remarkably good at it. It can dissolve a really wide range of substances, both polar and nonpolar, which is quite unique. That's key to many of its uses.
Okay.
And the report really emphasizes this. A big driver for its growth right now is its increasing use in making semiconductors and also in electronic cleaning solutions.
Huh. So it's actually helping build the tech we use every day?
In a way, yes. It's part of that complex supply chain, easy to overlook the basic chemistry behind it all.
For sure. Okay, so let's zoom out again to that global market picture. You gave us the headline numbers. Nearly $266 million next year, heading towards $478 million by 2033.
That's right, with that 7.6% CAGR, and the report we're looking at, it uses 2024 as its base year. It looks back at historical data from 2021 to 2024, gives the estimate for 2025, and then forecasts out to 2033.
So a pretty decent time frame.
Oh, yeah. It's quite comprehensive, over 250 pages, apparently. You can even get the data in different formats like PDF, Excel, if you really wanted to dive deep yourself.
Wow. Okay, so plenty of detail there. Now, the regional breakdown, where's the action happening? You mentioned Asia-Pacific earlier.
That's right. According to the projections for 2025, Asia-Pacific, or APAC, is actually set to have the largest market share, around 37%.
37%, okay.
Which translates to about USD 98.36 million next year. And they've got a really strong projected growth rate, too, 8.9% CAGR through 2033.
Almost 9%. What about other regions?
Well, North America is a very close second, holding just over 29% of the market in 2025. That's about USD 77.09 million. Their growth is solid, too, 6.6% CAGR predicted.
Still pretty strong.
Definitely. Then you have Europe, accounting for over 24%, so around USD 63.80 million.
Yeah.
After that, it drops a bit. South America and the Middle East each have roughly 4% shares.
Okay.
And Africa comes in at about 2.2%. So APAC leads, but North America and Europe are clearly major players as well.
Right. Let's dig into North America a bit more then. That's $77 million market.
Yeah.
What's driving it specifically there?
The report points strongly towards pharmaceutical applications. That seems to be a key driver.
Pharmaceuticals, how so?
Well, particularly in the U.S., which is the biggest chunk, about 60.83 million in 2025 with a 6.4% CAGR. There's a lot of R&D happening. Think organic synthesis, nanotechnology, biochemistry.
Cutting edge stuff.
Right. And DMSO's ability to dissolve so many different types of compounds, both those polar and nonpolar ones we mentioned, makes it super useful in these research labs.
All right.
In Canada, which is about 9.25 million with a higher CAGR of 7.4%, the report flags growth in personal care and cosmetics as a factor. Mexico, around 7 million, 7.1% CAGR, similar trends.
And the pharma angle, you mentioned dissolving things. Does it help with how drugs work?
Yes, that's a big part of it. Because it dissolves things well and can penetrate tissues, it's often used in drug formulations to help the active ingredients get absorbed better by the body.
Ah, I see.
And, as context, the FDA just approved an injectable form of a cancer drug, Opdivo Qvantig, back in December 2024. That kind of innovation highlights where DMSO can potentially play a role in drug delivery systems.
That's a really concrete example. Okay, so pharma's big in North America. What about Europe? Over $63 million there. What's the main story?
Europe's interesting. The report highlights a specific surge in R&D around DMSO-based eye drops.
Eye drops. Why?
Well, DMSO has some useful properties for ophthalmology. It's anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant, and again, it helps drugs penetrate tissues, in this case, the eye. So with things like age-related eye diseases, glaucoma, cataracts, diabetic retinopathy, even dry eye becoming more common, especially in countries like Germany, the UK, France, there's a real push to see if DMSO can help treat these conditions more effectively.
So a more focused application driving growth there.
Seems like it. I mean, look at the numbers. The UK market is projected at over 10.7 million USD with a 7.2% CAGR. Germany's even bigger, 12.6 million, 6.6% CAGR. Significant activity.
Interesting. So North America, broad pharma, Europe, a focus on eyes. Now let's jump back to the leader, Asia Pacific. Nearly $100 million market, almost 9% growth. What's the engine there?
A key factor highlighted for APAC is the growing use of DMSO in enzyme catalysis.
Enzyme catalysis. Sounds technical.
It is a bit, but basically enzymes are like biological helpers that speed up chemical reactions in industries. DMSO can apparently help make these enzymes more stable, more soluble, and just work more efficiently.
So it makes industrial processes better.
Exactly. As industries in places like China, Japan, India, and South Korea look for more sustainable, greener biochemical processes, think pharma, chemicals, even food production making enzymes work better is a big deal.
That makes a lot of sense given the manufacturing strength in APAC.
Right. China's market is huge, over 41 million USD with an 8.4% CAGR. Japan's over 13.5 million, 7.4% growth. And India has a really high growth rate, 10.8%. with a market size nearing 10 million. So, yeah, enzyme catalysis seems key there.
Okay. What about the smaller regions? South America, Middle East, Africa, any standout drivers?
Yeah, they each have their own angles. And
Yeah.
South America, which has a pretty high projected CGR overall, 8.3%, one interesting area is forensics.
Forensics, like crime investigation.
Exactly, and also preserving biological samples. Apparently, DMSO's properties are useful for chemical analysis and helping preserve things like DNA evidence, particularly noted in places like Brazil and Argentina.
Wow, okay. Didn't see that coming.
Brazil also sees some use in industrial lubricants and antifreeze, driving its nearly 9% CAGR. Then the Middle East, with a 7.9% CAGR.
Yeah.
There, it's about coatings, specifically hydrophobic water-repelling coatings. DMSO is used in formulating these, and given the harsh climate, demand for such coatings is rising, especially in places like Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Makes sense. Protect materials from the elements.
Right. And finally, Africa, 7.6% CAGR. A key driver there, particularly in South Africa, which has strong growth, is cosmetics and personal care.
Similar to Canada, then.
A bit, yeah. DMSO helps active ingredients in skincare penetrate better. So with a growing middle class and more awareness, that sector's using more of it.
It's really incredible how one chemical finds so many different niches depending on the region, isn't it?
It really is. Speaks to its versatility.
Okay, so the report also segments the market differently, right?
Uh.
By grade and specific applications. What did it say there?
Yes. In terms of grade, it seems industrial grade DMSO is the fastest growing segment overall.
Big applications. We've touched on pharma, electronics.
Right. Pharmaceuticals are expected to stay dominant. We talked about drug delivery, but another big use is as a cryoprotectant.
Cryoprotectant. You mentioned that briefly. Like antifreeze for cells.
Pretty much, yeah. It helps protect cells and tissues, think stem cells, bone marrow from damage when they're frozen for storage or transport. Super important for medical uses.
Got it.
It's also being explored cautiously for treating things like neurodegenerative diseases, maybe even cancer, because it might help abnormal cells behave more normally. But that's still heavily researched and regulated because of potential side effects.
Right. Got to be careful there.
And it also has known anti-inflammatory and pain-relieving properties. It's actually used in an approved treatment for a bladder condition called interstitial cystitis.
Okay. So a lot happening in pharma. But you said electronics was the fastest growing application?
That's right. Fastest growing segment. Its big role there is as a photoresist stripper.
Photoresist stripper. Sounds important for chip making.
It is. In making printed circuit boards and semiconductors, you layer materials and then selectively remove parts. DMSO is used in that removal step, helping create the tiny circuits.
Oh.
It's also involved in developing newer organic electronic materials like the OLEDs in fancy displays and processing nanomaterials like graphene. Plus, there's a push towards using it in more environmentally friendly electronics manufacturing processes.
Which connects back to that green chemistry trend. Okay, what about the removers and cleaners segment? That also sounds like a natural fit.
It is, and it's expanding rapidly too. DMSO is good at penetrating surfaces, right? So it makes cleaning agents work better, removing tough stuff like coatings or stains.
More effective cleaning.
Exactly. And a big plus is that it's generally considered less toxic than some other powerful industrial solvents. So you're seeing it used in safer cleaning products. There was even a recent patent application, July 2024, for a new DMSO-based cleaner just for semiconductor parts.
So effective and relatively safer. That's a good combo. Now, we've covered a lot of reasons why this market is growing. Did the report mention any headwinds? Any restraints?
It did mention a couple. Health and safety concerns are always there with chemicals. While DMSO is relatively low toxicity, it can cause skin irritation, and some people report that distinct garlic-like body odor after exposure.
Right, I think I've heard about that.
And the other factor is just the availability of substitutes. For some applications, there might be other chemicals or methods that can do the job, which could limit DMSO's growth in those specific areas.
Makes sense. No silver bullet. What about overarching trends shaping the future here?
Two main ones were flagged. First, the rise of biologics, those drugs made from living sources, and personalized medicine. This likely means more need for cryopreservation, where DMSO is key.
Okay, reinforces the farmer driver.
Exactly. And second, that increasing focus on green chemistry we mentioned, this could be a double-edged sword, though.
Oh, so?
Well, it pushes industries to find the most environmentally friendly options. That could favor DMSO over harsher solvents in some cases, but it could also drive innovation towards potentially even greener alternatives down the line.
Interesting dynamic. Okay, last big area. Who's actually making and selling all this DMSO? Is it a concentrated market?
The report describes it as highly competitive. You've got a mix of big global players and more regional ones.
Any names mentioned?
Yeah, quite a few. Arkema Group, Gaylord Chemical, Torii Fine Chemicals from Japan, Hubei Xingfa from China, Sigma Aldrich, which many labs use Parcum, Yangmei Fengxi Fertilizer, Zuzu Hansen Chemicals, Autochemi. Quite a list.
Okay, so definitely competitive.
And there's evidence of companies investing to meet this growing demand. Hubei Xingfa apparently boosted their capacity to 60,000 tons a year back in July 2022. And another company, 4U Chemtech, started a new facility just recently, June 2024, planning to reach 30,000 tons by October this year, making a point about safety and even using recycled materials in their process.
So production is ramping up to match those growth forecasts. Makes sense. Oh, okay. We have certainly gone deep on DMSO today.
We have. It's surprisingly complex for such a seemingly simple molecule.
So if you had to summarize the key takeaways, what really stands out from this deep dive?
For me, I think it's the sheer breadth of application. You know, a chemical most people have never heard of is playing roles in high-tech electronics, advanced medicine, industrial processes, even crime fighting. That versatility is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I agree. That really struck me too.
And the fact that the growth is so solid, driven by these really diverse and important sectors, pharma, electronics, cryopreservation, it just underlines that it's not some niche product. It's becoming quite significant.
Absolutely. It really does make you wonder, doesn't it? If DMSO, something relatively unknown, is doing all this, what other invisible chemicals or materials are out there, quietly underpinning our modern world and shaping where we're headed next?
That's a great thought.
It's definitely something to think about, looking beyond the surface, beyond the familiar, to the fundamental chemistry that makes so much possible.